based on my 50 years on Earth, um, one conclusion I've been able to come to is that I always tend to feel a sense of peace or contentment when I'm thinking more about other people than I am about myself.
Michael, it is an absolute privilege and joy to speak with you. Thank you so much for the time.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I don't mind one bit.
Honestly, Eric LaRue is something special. It is a powerful, powerful film.
Thank you.
What was it about this? I think this is your directorial debut. Is it
It
not?
is. Yeah, it's the first time. I mean, for the film and for film anyway. I've directed theater before. Yeah.
Okay. So what was it about Eric LaRue that you wanted to bring to life?
Oh gosh, it just seemed so important. It just seemed like something that needed to be. And I was worried maybe somebody else might screw it up. I don't know. I had just directed a play that Brett had written, the screenwriter Brett Nebu, and I felt very at home in his worldview, his vernacular, his perspective. It was just making a lot of sense to me at the time. And yeah, I was so fascinated. Usually as an actor, you're drawn to a particular character in a story and you think, oh, I want to play that character. But with this material, I was so drawn to all the characters and the community as a whole and how they were all struggling to deal with what had happened. And I thought, well, I don't want to miss out on anything. I want to be involved with the whole thing. So the easiest way to do that would be to direct it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it's such a complex story from start to
Yeah.
finish. That's one of the things that I'm so drawn to about this film is there really are no easy answers.
No, not at all. No, and we weren't even necessarily hunting for them. We were just telling the story and spending time with the people, and giving these people, a lot. I think people that are in the situation that Janice and Ron are in, that they don't get much attention really. The perpetrator gets a lot of attention. The victims obviously, understandably, get a lot of attention. The parents of the victims get a lot of attention. And I think the assumption a lot of times is that the parents of the perpetrator are probably, not well, and it's all their fault that the kid did what they did. And I and as much as I can understand that, and I'm not criticizing for anybody for thinking that, but it does ultimately seem like it could be a little more complicated. So that's what I wanted to explore.
Yeah, one of the things, and Judy, I mean, everybody is great, but Judy is just phenomenal in this
Yeah,
film.
she is.
Uh, but with her character, she's wrestling with that. She's under this weird pressure to give up her burdens or all these things. And she makes a comment about, what if I need my burdens? And I was
Right.
wondering if you think there's an element of that. Do we need our burdens?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like, in this current, what I'm watching happening the last year or so is people, it's literally like you're on a ship, right? And you think, oh, the ship might be sinking, so everybody's just throwing everything overboard. It's like, well, we can get rid of this, we can get rid of that. We don't need this, we don't need that. Um, and I think the point that Janice is making is like, well, no, that's not the solution. The solution isn't to just throw everything away like it doesn't matter or it didn't happen or you know I know that in my own, personal life as a person who's now, 50 years old, I can look back at my life and realize that a lot of the burdens that I carried earlier in my life have actually been significant factors in things that I've achieved or ways that I've grown and developed over the years. If you just turn a blind eye to everything, how are you supposed to evolve? I think that's the point that Janice is making, and her, maybe not as aware of it, as how I'm putting it right now, but I think that's the point she's making. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I think is interesting, if I can ask you, because the role of the church in this movie is fascinating, or church is.
Yeah.
There's a real push and pull going on here, and some are saying, just do this and everything will be fine, or there's the other pastors trying to get conversations started, and I was wondering in your mind, do you think that maybe in these situations, maybe we misunderstand the role of faith and prayer? Because it seems like her husband just thinks we can pray it away.
Yeah, it's a mystery. It's a mystery to me. I wouldn't claim to know more about it than anybody else does. I'm as fascinated. I'm fascinated by it. I'm
Mm.
curious about it. I've thought about it a lot over the years. Um, One of the things about religion that just continues to um, draw me to it is that there's so much in it that is beautiful, beautiful, inherently wise, inherently true. Uh, that I understand why people latch onto it and follow it. Um, and yet it just continuously gets mutated, it feels like, into something other than what it based on what I've read or studied, what it seems to be. But people have the capacity to do that with everything in their lives, whether it's religion or culture, anything, because the ego gets involved. When the ego gets involved, it's like a radioactive situation where something changes from what it's meant to be to whatever accommodates that individual person. People tailor things to their own way of looking at the world and what they need to, feel comfortable in their own skin. Um, so yeah, but I would never say that I've got a better handle on it than anybody else. I'm still, it's like a hot coal, in your hand. It's like hot potato. You can't hold on to it. You burn your hand. You just keep kind of bouncing it around. And I don't know why it's like that. I really don't. I think you kind of have to devote your life to it to really get an understanding of. And when I say it, I mean spirituality, to really get a true understanding of it.
Well, and I mean, we see this tension here. I mean, Janice's husband, I forget the character's name, I'm sorry.
Ron, yeah.
Ron.
Mhm.
He says he's gone Jesus crazy, but he's like this. He's in this environment. It's all about, it seems to be all about control. And Janice is just trying to figure it out. Like she's just
Right.
trying to work through her trauma.
To me, that seems like she is following in the steps of, because Jesus was a problem solver. From what I've gathered, he was constantly being put in impossible situations, and like, okay, Jesus, what do you think? What should you do? And I'm not claiming that Janice is like the second coming of Jesus or something, but it's just in terms of following the example of Christ. In a way, I feel like Janice is doing that in this situation, in a way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, actually, and that this is what I was wanted to speak to you about because Janice is carrying this burden, but she's trying to move forward. And I was wondering in your mind, what do you think it takes to move forward after we've suffered a trauma?
Oh gosh, man, if I had to answer that question, I'd be a zillionaire, wouldn't I? I don't know. All I know is that, like I said, based on and I'm not claiming I'm some ancient elder by any stretch of the imagination, but based on my 50 years on Earth, um, one conclusion I've been able to come to is that I always tend to feel a sense of peace or contentment when I'm thinking more about other people than I am about myself, you know. And that service and empathy and trying to find unity with your fellow people, you know, your community is likely going to make you feel a lot lighter than the opposite of that, you know. But trauma, you know, trauma's no joke, and it's not something that you can come up with an easy fix for. You know, there's people that dedicate their lives to studying how to deal with trauma and how to help people with PTSD and things like that. And I'm not I'm not an academic by any stretch of the imagination. I can only go on, you know, what my empathy is, what my experience as an artist is. But you know, when I was directing the film, I always wanted to try and create an environment where people could feel safe
Mm.
revealing whatever they wanted to reveal, sharing whatever they wanted to share, not feeling like there was a wrong choice or a dumb move or anything like that. And you know, if the world felt like that, you know, like the way I attempted to make my set feel, I think maybe there'd be a lot more happy people in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. I mean, there were scenes of some of these conversations that the cast must have had to be very vulnerable for.
Oh, very vulnerable. Yeah. And there's a lot of fear, you know, because nobody in the cast is coming in saying, like, oh, I got this in the bag. This will be easy. You know, people are showing up and, you know, their initial thought is, how am I going to do it? How can I even possibly do this or understand what's happening here? And when you know, when you say, hey, look, it's okay. None of these people actually know what to do either. You know, none of your characters know what to do. They don't know what they're saying. They don't know what's happening. You know, it's okay. You don't have to have all the answers, and then you relieve them of that burden. Then things can start to flow. You know, yeah,
I adore films that take that approach. I truly
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And this is one of them. Eric LaRue is phenomenal. Just as we wrap up, Michael, what do you hope people take away from it?
Oh wow. It's such a big. It's strange because I told Brett, and I actually heard this from a friend of mine who I showed the script to. A director that I had read the script before I started shooting. Um, he emailed me back after he read the script. He said, "Michael, this movie's about everything." I'm like, "Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it?" I mean, obviously, it's not about everything, but it's definitely there's a lot more to find in it than you would first suspect, and I would just tell people when they're watching it to not get frustrated with it. It's not. And I'm not saying this to sound grandiose or arrogant, but I really genuinely think it's not like most movies you're gonna see, and it's kind of a different thing. So be patient with it and just be open to it. That's all.
I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate your time, Michael. Thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.